This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, August 29th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
Another school shooting in America isn't sitting well.
Had some deranged fascination with previous mass shooting.
I'm Clayton Neville.
The Trump administration explaining the shakeup at the top of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
The Trump administration has asked a military base outside of Chicago for support on immigration operations. I'm Haya Panjwani.
A federal judge in Miami has refused to pause her order to wind down the immigration detention center in Alligator, Alcatraz. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
We're going to wrap up August trading today ahead of the Labor Day holiday on Monday when the markets will be closed. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
More than 700,000 pressure washers are being recalled. I'm Ed Donahue.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Minneapolis, a city in mourning, as we learn more about the shooter in the killings of students aged 8 and 10 during a school mass at a Catholic church. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
The city of Minneapolis says the number of injured in the shooting at the Annunciation Catholic School is up from 17 to 18 after learning of an additional injury after the shooter opened fire through a window into the church where students were gathered for school mass. The killing sparking raw emotion in America as police investigate another mass shooting here.
All they should be hoping to do is have someone to sit with at lunch or someone to play with on the playground. And sorry, this is a tough one.
That's Jen Psaki on MSNBC. She was upset with what is a reoccurring tragedy in America and with Republican leaders offering thoughts and prayers.
Join all of us in praying for the victims was Vice President J.D. Vance's response today. That's what he said. That's it. Please join me in praying for everyone involved, Trump wrote. We have seen this play out over and over again. There is a shooting, then come the thoughts and prayers, and then comes the attempt to shift the focus. This is what always happens.
The White House bit back.
I would encourage Ms. Psaki to pray for these families themselves who need it right now more than ever.
Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt called the comments insensitive and disrespectful.
To the tens of millions of Americans of faith across this country who believe in the power of prayer, who believe that prayer works, and who believe that in a time of mourning like this, when beautiful young children were killed while praying in a church, it's utterly disrespectful to deride the power of prayer in this country.
This is the investigation into Wednesday's shooting continues. Minneapolis Police Chief Brian O'Hara with a request of the media.
Stop saying the shooter's name. That was the whole purpose of why he did this heinous act.
An exact motive still being looked into, but the chief said,
what we have seen so far is this is an individual who, unfortunately, like so many other mass shooters that we have seen in this country too often and around the world, had some deranged fascination with previous mass shootings.
The chief said there's evidence of hate in the shooting, but it's not clear if the shooter had a specific grievance against the church or the school. There hasn't been any evidence so far, according to the chief, that shows ties to a radical group. But what are described as hundreds of pages of writing showed that the shooter was obsessed with the idea of killing children. Police recovered approximately 116 rifle rounds from the church, 1 live round from a handgun, and 3 shotgun shells. I'm Clayton Neville.
The White House spent much of Thursday explaining Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s decision to ask President Trump to fire the newly appointed head of the CDC. John Stolnis has details from Washington.
Susan Menares was confirmed by the Senate just 4 weeks ago. Now she's out of a job, forced out, her lawyer claims, over her refusal to rubber stamp new anti-vaccine positions by noted vaccine skeptic RFK Jr. Speaking in Texas, Kennedy said the move was necessary.
There's a lot of trouble at CDC, and it's going to require getting rid of some people over the long term in order for us to change the institutional culture and bring back pride and self-esteem and make that agency the stellar agency that it's always been.
4 other top officials submitted their resignations in the wake of Menares' firing, including the CDC's chief medical officer and the top respiratory illness and immunization officer. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt explains Menares refused to carry out President Trump's vision for the CDC.
Her lawyer's statement
made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't. So the president fired her, which he has every right to do.
What we're seeing is an assault. It's an assault on science. It's an assault on CDC.
Former CDC Director Tom Frieden.
This is unprecedented. There has never been a CDC director fired. And it appears that she was fired for standing up for saying things that are true.
The Associated Press reports second in command at the CDC, Jim O'Neill, will take over as its head. Menares' firing comes just a couple weeks before a key vaccine advisory committee is set to meet. Republican Senator Bill Cassidy, chair of the HELP committee, is calling for that meeting to be postponed. And Republican Senator Susan Collins called the firing alarming and echoed Cassidy's call for congressional oversight on the matter.
It's 12 past. The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. It's the biggest sale of the year. All beds are on sale. Limited time only at a Sleep Number store or sleepnumber.com. Trump turns his immigration scrutiny toward Chicago. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. The all-important start to the Labor Day weekend begins with the forecast. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Cooler conditions are again on the way for a number of places from the Great Lakes and Midwest into New England, much of the Mid-Atlantic, and through the Ohio Valley. And for many, this will be simply the latest such stretch during what has been a rather nice second half or so of August, with temperatures and humidity remaining mostly in check, especially by August standards. Look for highs today between 8 and 12 degrees below historical averages from Illinois and Kentucky, north and east through northern Virginia, and right into western Maine, including much of Michigan and Wisconsin as well. Tonight's overnight lows may approach record lows within a zone from northern Indiana and southern lower Michigan, eastward through Pennsylvania and into the Catskill Mountains of New York. Today's heaviest precipitation looks to set up from eastern Texas through Louisiana and along the Gulf Coast, where numerous heavy showers and thunderstorms are expected to bring intense downpours to end the week. This may put a damper on any early holiday travel plans, including for places like New Orleans, Mobile, Alabama, even the northeastern suburbs of Houston, as a stalled front taps into an abundance of moisture available for thunderstorms to bring right down to the surface in the form of torrential rainfall. Farther to the west, the evening hours bring the start of a risk for some drenching thunderstorms to a zone from eastern New Mexico and the Texas and Oklahoma panhandles, northward to southwestern Nebraska and eastern Colorado. Storms in these areas may be locally severe with gusty winds and areas of flash flooding, although the risk for organized and widespread severe weather is limited around just about all of the nation today. In Redding, California, today brings warmth and sunshine with a high of 100. For Minneapolis, expect a mix of sun and clouds with a thunderstorm or two around for the day, high 79. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The Trump administration has asked a military base located outside of Chicago for assistance for upcoming immigration operations. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports that this could lead to ICE enforcement in the Windy City.
The Trump administration has asked a military base outside of Chicago for support on immigration operations. The move offers a clue on what its expanded law enforcement crackdown might look like in the nation's third largest city.
And he's only doing it because he wants to disrupt future elections. He wants to cause fear and, frankly, to inflame people on the ground by sending troops. How about help us hire police?
Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, a potential 2028 Democratic presidential contender, told the AP that the presence of troops could worsen the situation.
And so the very first thing that we're doing is preparing to go to court to prevent or stop what he's attempting to do. Second is drawing attention to the fact that it's illegal, unconstitutional. Frankly, it's un-American.
Trump has often singled out Chicago, likening it to a war zone and hellhole. Violent crime in the city has dropped significantly in recent years, but it remains a persistent problem. I'm Haya Panjwani.
A Florida detention center is another step closer to closure. Lisa Dwyer reports.
A federal judge in Miami has refused to pause her order to wind down the immigration detention center known as Alligator Alcatraz in the Florida Everglades by late October. Alligator Alcatraz has been targeted by several lawsuits, ranging from its impact on the Everglades to civil rights concerns. Trump border czar Tom Homan says he personally toured the facility and disagrees with the judge's decision and accusations of unsanitary conditions.
I went down there. I walked through the detention areas where these people sleep and live. I saw a clean facility, a well-maintained facility. I went to the medical center and talked to the nurses there on staff, looked at the medical facility. It was great.
State officials say shutting down the facility could cost them up to $20 million and potentially another $20 million if they are allowed to reopen the facility. As the legal wrangling continues to play out, Florida officials are still prepared to open a second immigration detention facility dubbed Deportation Depot at a state prison in North Florida. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
When we return on America in the Morning, home sales numbers and the outlook for mortgage rates after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. Markets and more with CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for the markets. Investors spent a lot of the day yesterday trying to decide whether NVIDIA was too highly priced, although the AI chipmaker reported better than expected quarterly results. CNBC Mad Money host Jim Cramer has this long-term view of NVIDIA.
When we saw Microsoft go to $4 trillion, we said, fine, it's software. That's what happens. In the old days, when we saw Exxon become the number one company, well, it's oil. That's what happens. Right now, we have to accept the fact that this is hardware with a software component, and it's changing the world. And they're talking about a total addressable market that's going to triple in the next 4 years. And if that's the case, then revenues could triple. And then you'd say, well, this is the greatest growth story ever told.
Fed Governor Lisa Cook officially sued the Trump administration after the president moved to fire her. The issues now go to court and perhaps the Supreme Court. President Trump wants to control the Fed. He wants interest rates lowered. Another slow summer in the residential real estate business for home sales.
Pending home sales in July dropped 0.4% from June. Now, this count is based on signed contracts, so people out inking deals in July. Regionally, sales dropped month to month in the Northeast and Midwest. They were flat in the South. Now, given that these are signed contracts, I also want to note a very recent report from Redfin that found these contracts being canceled at the highest rate since they began tracking this in 2017. 15% of homes that went under contract in July, says Redfin, were canceled.
CNBC's Diana Olick. Meantime, if you're waiting for the Fed to cut interest rates next month and you're waiting for mortgage rates then to fall before buying a home, remember the last time the Fed cut interest rates last year? Mortgage rates went up.
If the Fed were to cut rates, how much control do they have over the long end of things?
I mean, look, they delivered that cut in September of 2024, and mortgage rates went up.
Yeah, right.
That's Harvard economist Jason Furman with CNBC's Becky Quick. The Fed controls short-term rates, which can slow down or, conversely, juice the economy. Mortgages, though, are long-term.
Should not necessarily bet that they're going to get rate relief with a cut. Now, if you buy an adjustable rate mortgage that's more sensitive to the short end, then maybe. But if you're looking to lock in a 30-year, I don't think you're going to get that much relief upon rate cuts.
That's One Point BFG Wealth Partners Chief Investment Officer Peter Bookvar on CNBC. On today's watch list, no big earnings reports, but some data today heading into the long Labor Day holiday weekend. We get personal income and spending numbers for Americans. We get the latest on consumer sentiment. New in theaters for the holiday weekend, Sony's Caught Stealing and Iconic's The Toxic Avenger. Plus, in select theaters for its 50th anniversary, Jaws on the big screen.
All right, CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. Tariffs on small packages begins today when America in the Morning continues after these messages. 2 major national recalls to be aware of. A salmonella outbreak linked to eggs produced by California-based Country Eggs LLC has sickened at least 95 people. Also, a popular cleaning product is being recalled. Ed Donahue reports.
More than 700,000 pressure washers are being recalled. Ryobi brand electric pressure washers are sold at retailers like Home Depot. The Consumer Product Safety Commission says in certain models, a capacitor can overheat and burst, causing parts to be forcefully ejected. There have been 41 reports of explosions that resulted in 32 injuries and/or fractures to fingers, hands, face, and eyes. Anyone who owns the now recalled pressure washers are being told to stop using them right away. A free repair kit is available, which includes a replacement capacitor. Earlier this year, Ryobi-branded mowers and hedge trimmers were recalled because of fire and laceration hazards. I'm Ed Donahue.
The days of duty-free parcels has come to an end. The U.S. will begin implementing new tariffs on small packages from around the world starting today, ending a loophole that's allowed billions of dollars in goods worth less than $800 to enter the nation without having to pay a duty. The increased tariffs will particularly hit online retailers from China especially hard. The move prompted postal services abroad to stop shipping packages to America. Parcels and packages from individuals to individuals with a value up to $100, which are declared as a gift, are not affected by the executive order. America in the Morning for Friday, August 29th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Investigators are looking for a motive in the deadly mass shooting at a Minneapolis church. I'm Ed Donahue.
The battle over redistricting turning into a battle between Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom. I'm Steve Futterman.
A North Carolina grandfather charged with lacing his granddaughter's ice cream. I'm Clayton Neville.
Authorities have said a mass Russian drone and missile attack on Ukraine's capital has killed at least 14 people. I'm Karen Shamas.
Now you can watch the U.S. Open in 3D thanks to AI. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Find out if the new Toxic Avenger is a waste or not. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. Hoping showers don't interfere with your Labor Day weekend plans. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
A couple of zones with much less than ideal travel conditions will emerge as early holiday travelers head onto the roads later today, and in some spots, travel may become rather difficult at times. The largest such area facing potentially major impacts is expected to be along mainly the central Gulf Coast and points inland through Louisiana, far eastern Texas, much of southern Mississippi, and the Florida Panhandle, as well as parts of Alabama. In this zone, showers and thunderstorms should be rather numerous, with an impressive amount of moisture in place to be wrung out in any precipitation. The second area where travel may be especially difficult for a time will include a good deal of New England, where a cold front approaching a plume of moisture building in right near the coast will lead to some potential enhancement for thunderstorms developing along and ahead of that front this afternoon and into this evening. In fact, there is some risk for gusty winds and small hail in cities such as Portland, Maine, and Boston within any storm in the area, although the risk for organized or widespread severe weather will remain rather low. Lesser, more sporadic travel impacts may extend from there through eastern New York, northeastern Pennsylvania, and northern New Jersey, where there may be at least a thundershower around for the day today. A broader zone of wet weather also threatens early holiday travel from northern and western Texas through eastern portions of New Mexico, much of Colorado and Wyoming, and as far to the north and west as southern Montana, where showers and storms may build for both today and into tomorrow as some energy works its way through the atmosphere. However, the Mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, and West Coast all are areas where early holiday travel should be generally good to go for today. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. More is being learned about the person who fired more than 100 rounds into a church where children had gathered for school in Minneapolis. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports what has been determined is that the gunman was filled with hatred and also had a strong admiration for mass shooters.
The shooter left behind hundreds of pages of writings that describe the shooter's plan, writings that describe the shooter's mental state, and more than anything, writings that describe the shooter's hate. Pure, indiscriminate hate.
Investigators are looking for a motive in the deadly mass shooting at a Minneapolis church.
The shooter expressed hate towards almost every group imaginable. The shooter expressed hate towards black people. The shooter expressed hate towards Mexican people. The shooter expressed hate towards Christian people. The shooter expressed hate towards Jewish people. In short, the shooter appeared to hate all of us. The shooter's heart was full of hate.
Police Chief Brian O'Hara says the shooter fired 116 rifle rounds into Annunciation Catholic Church. Students at the church's school were attending Mass.
No investigation, no evidence will ever be able to make sense of such an unthinkable tragedy.
The chief says as they search for a motive, it's clear the intention was to terrorize those innocent children.
There is a connection to the parish, a connection to the school, but we have not identified a triggering event or a specific grievance against the church that you could point to say this is the reason for why this happened.
The chief says this individual had some deranged fascination with other mass shootings.
What we have seen so far is this is an individual who, unfortunately, like so many other mass shooters that we have seen in this country too often and around the world, had some deranged fascination with previous mass shootings and very disturbing writings that demonstrate hatred towards many different individuals and different groups of people. And he fantasized about the plans of other mass shooters.
The suspect's mother worked at the church in Minneapolis for 5 years, retiring in 2021.
I have only said the name of this shooter once, and I'm asking members of the media to stop saying the shooter's name. That was the whole purpose of why he did this heinous act.
I'm Ed Donahue.
There's more fallout following the firing of the director of the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports that 2 departing scientific leaders at the CDC say political interference at the agency remains a problem, while HHS Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., speaking at an event in Texas, says that more changes to the agency are coming, including a new interim director.
There's a lot of trouble at CDC, and it's going to require getting rid of some people over the long term in order for us to change the institutional culture and bring back pride and self-esteem and make that agency the stellar agency that it's always been. I'm very confident in the political staff that we have down there now that they're going to be able to accomplish that.
Dr. Deborah Howery and Dr. Dimitri Daskalakis resigned after the White House dismissed CDC Director Susan Monarez.
Did not go through. HHS would not allow her to. And then when she was called in to see the secretary on Monday, we knew, like I had said to Dimitri and Dan, like if she leaves, we don't have scientific leadership anymore. And at that point, we were planning on leaving. We just were going to see if she was able to weather the storm. And when she was not, we were done.
Dr. Howery, the now former CDC Deputy Director and Chief Medical Officer, says they knew the atmosphere was not positive.
Like if she leaves, we don't have scientific leadership anymore. And at that point, we were planning on leaving. We just were going to see if she was able to weather the storm. And when she was not, we were done.
Dr. Daskalakis, who resigned as head of the National Center for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, says Monarez's firing was pivotal.
So I've come to the point personally where I think that our science will be compromised, and that's my line in the sand.
The White House says Monarez was fired because she was not aligned with President Donald Trump's agenda.
Look, what I will say about this individual is that her lawyer's statement made it abundantly clear themselves that she was not aligned with the president's mission to make America healthy again. And the secretary asked her to resign. She said she would, and then she said she wouldn't. So the president fired her, which he has every right to do.
Her lawyers say her firing was illegal. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Gavin Newsom announced he will deploy the state police to major cities after Donald Trump threatened to send more troops to California. Steve Futterman reports on the latest back and forth by the California governor and President Trump.
It began with Donald Trump pushing the idea of redistricting in Texas.
We have an opportunity in Texas to pick up 5 seats, and I won Texas. I got the highest vote in the history of Texas, and we are entitled to 5 more seats.
And with Texas Republicans in complete control of the state legislature, the plan to redraw the Texas map was easily approved. That's when California Democrats, led by Governor Gavin Newsom, responded.
I know they say don't mess with Texas. Well, don't mess with the great Golden State.
Newsom says by redoing the maps now, rather than wait for the 2030 census, the way it's normally been done, Trump is engaged in a type of rigging of the midterm elections.
We can't stand back and watch this democracy disappear district by district all across this country.
While the president enthusiastically endorsed the Texas plan, he has a much different reaction to California's attempt to essentially do the same thing. And he is threatening to take legal action to block the California redistricting.
Well, I think I'm going to be filing a lawsuit pretty soon, and I think we're going to be very successful in it. We're going to be filing it through the Department of Justice. That's going to happen.
It's a battle that seems likely to wind its way through the courts. This week, the California Supreme Court rejected the first attempts to block the California plan. And eventually, this could turn out to be a battle between Trump and Newsom. The governor is now mocking the president on social media, putting out tweets in all caps that look and sound a lot like those posted by Trump. And Newsom is now even selling merchandise, including a red cap that says, "Newsom was right about everything." I'm Steve Futterman in Los Angeles.
Deadly attack in the Russia-Ukraine war, and AI comes to sports. When America in the Morning continues after these messages. An election official in North Carolina is facing criminal charges after allegedly drugging his granddaughter's ice cream. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
James Yokley Jr. has resigned from his role as head of Surry County, North Carolina Board of Elections, but he says he hopes to be exonerated of the charges against him. According to investigators, Yokley flagged down police at a gas station earlier this month and told them that pills were found in his 2 granddaughters' ice cream that they bought from Dairy Queen nearby. He insisted the girls hadn't eaten their dessert, and after testing, it turns out the pills contained cocaine and MDMA. After an investigation, video footage showed the 66-year-old grandfather putting the pills in the ice cream. The motive isn't clear, and Yokley's now charged with felony child abuse and contaminating with a controlled substance. I'm Clayton Neville.
The Air Force decided to extend military funeral honors for deceased senior airman Ashley Babbitt, who was shot and killed by a police officer during the 2021 U.S. Capitol riot. The decision came after Air Force leadership during the Biden administration previously denied the request. Babbitt was shot and killed by a U.S. Capitol police officer as she was attempting to forcibly gain access to the Capitol chambers during the events of January 6. The Department of Justice later announced it would not pursue criminal charges against the officer who shot Babbitt. The decision comes after a wrongful death settlement was reached last month, which resulted in the government paying the Babbitt family nearly $5 million. Shifting gears, it was one of the deadliest attacks since the Russia-Ukraine war. Correspondent Karen Shamas reports on an overnight Kremlin drone and missile attack that hit an apartment building as well as government offices, leaving more than 20 people dead.
Ukrainian firefighters battled a blaze in Kyiv after the attack early on Thursday. It was the first major Russian combined attack on Kyiv in weeks as US-led peace efforts struggle to gain traction.
There has not been a war like this since the Second World War. This is the biggest thing that's happened in terms of warfare, wars. It's a whole new form of fighting. It's a drone fighting. It's a drone war. No, a drone war never existed before. This is a whole new form of war, but it's a violent war.
A Ukrainian official has said Russia launched decoy drones, cruise missiles and ballistic missiles and struck at least 20 locations across 7 districts of Kyiv. This is the first major combined attack on Kyiv since US President Donald Trump met with Russian President Vladimir Putin earlier this month to discuss ending the 3-year war in Ukraine. I'm Karen Shamas.
Late last night, the Trump administration approved the sale of over 3,000 extended-range attack missiles to Ukraine. There are still no talks planned between Russia and Ukraine. It was 2 weeks ago that Vladimir Putin traveled to Alaska for a face-to-face meeting with President Trump, a summit that ended without a deal to end the conflict. A federal judge in Tennessee orders new trials for 3 former Memphis police officers who were convicted of felony counts in the beating death of Tyree Nichols after a 2023 traffic stop. A federal jury convicted the 3 officers, but they were acquitted of state charges in the case back in May. The new trial was granted after defense lawyers argued that another judge who presided over their trial was biased against the men. 2 other officers who were charged in Nichols' death previously pleaded guilty. America in the Morning continues. The U.S. Open will be debuting their new AI-powered 3D live replay with commentary, changing the way fans interact with the sport. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
This year, the U.S. Open is going high-tech with AI turning tennis matches into 3D replays. IBM's AI is using player tracking data and creating 3D animated replays for every men and women's singles match. Plus, a chatbot will dish out insights, but keeping it pretty chill, dodging drama like a pro. Since, according to Tyler Seidel from IBM Sports and Entertainment, it's been trained to bite its digital tongue. This year's match is crazy immersive, with fans getting a virtual courtside view, just like a video game, while nearly 1 million attendees and 15 million app users get to watch the live-action 3D play. IBM's Watson X is also powering the audio and commentary, and the tech is really spiking fan engagement. AI could be changing how you watch sports in the future. Check back on Monday, where I'll give my personal review of the new Google Pixel 10 AI phone. I'm Chuck Palm.
And with more in sports this morning, here's Robert Workman.
Kyle Schwarber, take a bow. The Philly slugger hit 4 home runs and drove in a franchise record 9 runs in a 19-4 rout of the Braves. He now leads the National League with 49 dongs. That's just 1 behind the Major League leader, Cal Raleigh of Seattle. Yankees smacked 3 Jacks in a 10-4 romp over the White Sox. That's New York's 5th win in a row. Manager Aaron Boone.
I think everyone understands where we are in the calendar and where we are in our playoff pursuit, and we gotta play our best every single day.
Marlins took advantage of 3 Mets errors, scoring 5 unearned runs in a 7-4 victory. Christian Walker's second home run of the game snapped an 8th-inning tie and lifted the Astros over the Rockies 4-3. Giants edged the Cubs 4-3. Willie Adames went deep twice. Wins for the Diamondbacks, Red Sox, and Cardinals. NFL opening night is next Thursday. The Cowboys at the Super Bowl champion Eagles. Yesterday, Dallas traded its 4-time Pro Bowl rush end Micah Parsons to the Packers for defensive tackle Kenny Clark and first-round picks in 26 and 27. Green Bay then signed Parsons to a 4-year deal worth $188 million, making him the highest-paid non-quarterback in NFL history. College football Week 1 kicked off last night. Number 25 Boise State jumped out to an early lead at South Florida, and then the Bulls took over the rest of the night, winning 34-7. Everyone else in the top 25 is scheduled to play this weekend, including 3 top 10 matchups, with the biggest of big ones at high noon on Saturday. Number 1 Texas at defending national champion 3rd-ranked Ohio State. That's Friday Sports.
Among the stories we're covering next, Civil Rights Milestone Revisited. And what's new in theaters is old again when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The family of Emmett Till is recalling the train ride he took from Chicago to Mississippi in 1955, part of the remembrance ceremonies marking 70 years since his passing that became a watershed moment in the civil rights movement. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports that the gun used in Till's murder can now be seen in a Mississippi museum.
The gun used in Emmett Till's lynching is being displayed in a museum 70 years after his murder. The Mississippi Department of Archives and History unveiled the .45 caliber pistol in its holster during a news conference. It came on the 70th anniversary of Till's murder. The gun belonged to John William J.W. Millam, who, alongside Roy Bryant, abducted Till from his great-uncle's home on August 28, 1955. The white men tortured and killed Till after the teenager was falsely accused of whistling at a white woman in a rural Mississippi grocery store. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Heading to theaters for the Labor Day weekend, a schlocky remake of a film from the 1980s is hitting the big screen. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at The Toxic Avenger.
In an era of remakes, reboots, and retcons, I suppose it's time for a new take on classic American exploitation.
The Toxic Avenger?
That's what the kids are calling him. I think it's swell.
The Toxic Avenger follows a down-on-his-luck widower who suffers an industrial accident that turns him into a powerful mutant.
I didn't want any of this.
He targets the head of a pharmaceutical company to clean up the town of corruption and crime.
You're saying that this corporation would knowingly poison its own customers just to boost their own profit margins?
In the 80s, the Toxic Avenger helped build the Troma Schlock House. The original film was a teen sexcapade with Toxie fighting bullies in a gym. Now he tackles bigger issues like corporate greed and the healthcare crisis.
How does it feel to be a hero?
Does this make the new film better? Not necessarily. There was a comfort to the original's focus on over-the-top splatter filmmaking with a corny plot and loads of jiggle factor.
Do you realize what's at stake here? Everything!
In this version, Peter Dinklage takes his role way more seriously than he probably should, while Kevin Bacon and Elijah Wood chew the scenery as bad guys, and it's all in good fun.
Just some dude with a mouth!
The Toxic Avenger is a wild ride, though I do miss the days of Troma's gritty, low-budget exploitation films with zero regrets.
Sometimes you gotta do something.
The Toxic Avenger gets 3 mops out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
Have a safe and enjoyable Labor Day weekend. America in the Morning for Friday, August 29th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.